everybody who, got in and getting ready for, something magical, something historic, whatever. I just want to say the same thing I say to myself. Hello, suckers. Hello, suckers. Myself included. And I'm not, hey, look, they made a lot of money. But I did, for my bookie, when we broke, I did say bet on Paul. The bookies were telling you way before you needed any pundits to tell you. I mean, forget about what your common sense has to tell you, 58 years old, all that, whatever. But the guy was a special heavyweight fighter. So we said, but what if? All right, but it wasn't to be what if. But when the bookies make him a 28-year-old kid who, used to be a YouTuber, and he's worked hard to learn boxing. He really has. He's come along, but really, he's still not of that level yet. But he is getting better. But when you got a 28-year-old kid who didn't even have amateur fights, that's had like 11 fights now, well-chosen fights, he lost one, and you got him as a 2-1 favorite on the betting line throughout Vegas, throughout everywhere, and there's a lot of money coming in. The bookies are begging you to bet Tyson. They're begging you. Matter of fact, I had to go and take an Alka-Seltzer after I told our good fans who I care a lot about, after I told them last week, bet Paul. I had to go take an Alka-Seltzer. I was upset. My stomach got upset. I was like, how can I be? And I like Paul. I like him a lot. I like what he's done. I like the American dream, what he's represented, how he worked his backside off to make a vision become real, become reality, a dream become reality. I love it. But man, I thought about it afterwards. I got a headache. I was like, I just picked a 28-year-old kid who just took this up a couple years ago to beat one of the greatest heavyweights of all time, even if he is 58. But it was the only direction to go. You want to throw a few bucks, like I said, on Tyson by knockout, because that was about the only way it was going to happen? Fine. But before I delve into this, for what it is to delve into, I got to tell you, forget about how the reflexes get old, disappear. Forget about the reflexes disappearing with age and, the speed being diminished. Obviously his technique, he has no trainers really of any level. So that's not going to be top stuff. But the physical part, forget, we understand the damage that time can do. We understand that. You leave a car outside too long and you come back and the paint job's not good and, there's rust, there's corrosion. Well, the same thing with the human body, right? So we understood that. For me, the most important thing was if it was going to be a shot, if there was going to be a shot for Tyson to do anything, being 58, and with all the understanding power's the last thing to go. Having said all that, if he was going to have any shot at all, if the magic was going to happen and the strength was going to come back to his body, he was going to rejuvenate himself physically the best he could for one last shot at it. The attitude had to be right. The mind had to be right. He had to be the old Tyson in thinking of, the baddest man on the planet. I will hit you on the tip of the nose, drive your bone back into your brain. I mean, it's absurd. It's ridiculous. It's stuff that we don't like to really hear. But I mean, it's what you used to hear from him. And you got to the point where you believed it. A lot of it, of course, was selling. It was making his image, which he did a hell of a job. And then he hits guys and it sells it because he does back it up with that. But the thing was being that guy, the attitude that I'm going to, he said to Lennox Lewis, of course, he didn't wasn't able to back it up, but I'm going to eat your children. And he does all that stuff to intimidate, to make the fight easier. But what you had to have that was tangible was he used to be a guy that believed he was going to knock you into tomorrow. He came out that way. That was his approach. That was his attitude. That was all the way to his, went all the way through to his DNA, if you want to say it that way. That was his makeup. That he's going to come out there and do what Customer coined as the phrase, throw with bad intentions. He was going to throw with bad intentions, and he was going to get to you sooner or later. He had to have that cause, that I'm going to get to you. He had to have that intent. That was not his intent. You could see it. Because if it was an intent, even if he looked bad, he would have threw punches. There were no punches. You can't win whether you're Mike Tyson, whether you're whoever. I'm just pointing out things that have to be pointed out, doing my job that I've done for 30 years. Analyze things and put it out. Whether you agree or don't, that's fine. But it's based on experience. It's based on judges. It's based on, 50 years in the business. And it don't mean I'm right, but it's my opinion. And it's based on experience, not just the way it decided the bed I woke up on. So the other thing, the other X factor was it legitimate? Now I'm going to leave that up to you guys, because if it ain't legitimate, then nothing matters. If it was WWE script, right? If it was that, then the rest of it, what are we even talking about? If that's what you saw, if you believe that Paul could have knocked him out, and I believe he could have. Now,
let me ask you, did you think that he carried him late in the fight?
Yeah, I think he did. But now you could ask different reasons. You have to look for what the reason was behind it. It's kind of like being in a courtroom. You're in a courtroom, okay, is it murder or is it manslaughter? Was the intent to kill? Was the intent or did it happen, because of other circumstances that brought it about? But was the intent? Was it premeditated? That's what we have to figure out here. And that's because, was it because Netflix and them told him, hey, when we agree to do this, yeah, it's exciting. Yeah, it could be big. With Netflix, there's board members, there's people that get paid a lot of money to make sure that billion-dollar conglomerate business stays a billion-dollar conglomerate business. That something stupid don't happen, like
whoever's responsible is going to have a long day today with the buffering and the show that they put on. So it would have been hard to get it much more wrong than they did in terms of the main event.
No, but one thing they didn't get wrong, the traffic. They got the traffic. Yeah, they got the subscribers. They got all that. That's what they wanted. But what they didn't want... I'd be
curious to hear how many new subscribers they got versus just people that have a subscription and tune in.
Well, no, that was what it was all about. It was all about getting news. I think there was an upside for Tyson. If you bring in X amount of new subscribers, you get this. Otherwise, you get a flat fee, which whatever it is. So I think that was part of it. But yeah, it was about new subscribers. It was about energizing the base. It was about being Netflix, being the first, being a pioneer, doing this on Netflix. It was about all of that, and that was all successful. What I'm getting at, if you let me just say this one thing, what I'm getting at is that before it could even be put out there, where you go forward with it that way, beyond the idea part, where you have a meeting and then you go past the meeting and you start execution of the idea. These guys had to say, wait a minute, do we want to risk a 58-year-old in the ring and have liability, have real possibility that, God forbid, he has a heart attack, God forbid, he gets hurt, whatever. But he is 30 years older than this kid. Do we want, with his iconic name, with everything that we want all that, because that's why we're doing it. But do we want the possibility that something goes astray here? Something, God forbid, and it didn't, thank God. But if something goes bad, do we want that kind of liability? No. So how do you get around it? Well, one way would be to have a script, to have an agreement that nobody's going to hurt the other guy, that it's going to be WW. I'm not saying it was. I'm not saying I know. I am saying this. Paul let up. Now there's other reasons. I'm going to be that lawyer in the courtroom, like my daughter, the great lawyer, like Keith Sullivan, like Pedro Martinez Fraga. I'm going to be the great. Well, I'm not great. They're great, but I'm going to pretend to be great as a lawyer. I'm going to be in a courtroom. I'm going to say, okay, wait a minute. Intent. Again, it's intent. Was it scripted? Was it preordained? Was it premeditated? Or did Jake Paul just feel sorry for a guy that could have been his idol, a guy who's been iconic, a guy who's been a great, great fighter? Did he feel bad? Did he just have mercy on him? Did he just not? Or, there is another or. Or was it that he was still worried, which I could understand, that even with him looking bad, even with all that, he's still Mike Tyson. He might land a punch, and the only way he suddenly decides to throw maybe one last time a vicious, bad intention left hook, I could be too close and I could get hit. So I'm going to stay my distance. I'm winning easy. I'm not going to take any risk. I'm going to cash the check. I'm going to get the win. I'm going to get the night. I'm going to win the night. I'm going to get everything we wanted, but I'm not going to risk. I'm going to go. It wasn't even a matter maybe of him taking it easy because he felt bad for him or he had respect for him. All possible, but just that he didn't want to do something stupid. He didn't want to give Tyson a one shot that we all thought he had to land a big shot. So he played it safe. So it's one of those things. It has to be. But the main thing is Tyson. Yeah, we know physical, that he didn't, his body looked okay for 58, all that stuff, but he looked old. And he just, again, his attitude to be that guy. If his body wasn't that guy, okay, but his attitude wasn't that attitude because he had no chance. Even though we talk about, the punch is the last thing to go. Again, back to what made you laugh before. You can't win a round if you don't throw the punch. If you don't throw punches. And I'd like to do a sobriety test or something on the people who do the punch numbers. I'd like to see where they even had 18 punches. Whatever the number was that they came up with. Ken, if you could do that, I don't know, look at your computer and do that for me. But I don't even see where they came up with that many I didn't see that many punches thrown. Look, at the end of the day, Tyson he was squared up. He was easy. When you square a guy up, your balance ain't there. You can hit him easy. He was always squared to a point, but not like this. Not like this, where his legs were squared up like that. I know he had a brace on his knee. I don't know what that was about. I have no idea. He did land a jab early. He used to be able to hurt guys with jabs. And I thought, okay, maybe I hurt him with the jab, but that was the last I saw the jab. That was it. It went into witness protection after that. I don't know where the jab went. We're still looking for it. Anyone see it? I don't know, because he didn't use it anymore. But then some people, conspiracy theory, you want to stay on that? Some people are going to say, Teddy, that's right there. He landed a jab. He staggered Paul. I don't know if he really staggered him, but he knocked him off balance, and then he pulled up. Why? Because he didn't want to hurt him, because the agreement was, don't knock this kid out. Okay, you want to believe that? I don't. But if you want to believe, okay, I'm trying to do my job for you guys. I appreciate you come here. I want to give you everything that should be given to you to come up with your own thoughts and to put closure. If you need closure, maybe you don't need it. You're past that already. You went out, you got a few drinks that night, and you're way past closure. You're past it. You didn't have to pay for it, so you're not that upset about it. Anyway, I don't know if I have any more to put on it. I think I covered the way that I would hope that would satisfy the good people out there, and even the people that aren't so good. I hope it satisfies all, and I'm only kidding. I don't know any of you that aren't good. I think some of you are a little whatever, and that's okay. What are you going to do? I mean, like I said, we all have our choice of how we behave, what we do every day, and it's yours, it's our choice. My choice was to try to lay it out there the best way I could.